Hey folks, it's Keith and welcome back to the Common Sense Practical Prepper Podcast, August the 31st, 2025, coming to you from our affiliate office in Berlin, Germany. As you know, I'm on vacation and I've been here, I think this is day 3. With the time change and jet lag, it's got me completely turned around. But I've had a chance to walk through a lot of Berlin. I think I've probably put 20 miles on my feet in the last 3 days here visiting family. And it's a very unique experience because many of you know I was backpacking through what was Western Europe at the time, and I ended up in West Berlin, took a day trip into East Berlin, and I could talk for hours on my day in East Berlin and how it almost went really bad, but I was able to make it back into the West before some things happened. It wasn't going to be an international incident per se, but needless to say, story for a different day. And I've had the chance in the last couple of days to, get on the U-Bahn and go to some of these sites that I took photographs of 35 years ago and compare the photographs on my phone with what the city looks like now. And it was really it came as a shock to me when I came around the corner yesterday afternoon, and unbeknownst to me, I was basically right next to the location where Checkpoint Charlie was, and a section of the wall that is still there, and the Berlin Wall Museum, which is behind that section of the wall. And I was really flooded with emotions, and it kind of surprised me, not because of what happened, with the wall going up, a city literally divided in half, families that were on one side of the wall that did not have a chance to get back across from the east to the west to the east. When they decided to put up the wall and put up the barriers, brick masons were literally being held at gunpoint as the soldiers strung barbed wire, and the masons were at gunpoint putting down bricks and cinder blocks just as fast as they could. And the East German guards, the soldiers, were keeping folks from the East jumping the fence to get to their family, and then vice versa. Folks from the West trying to get to their family and friends in the East. It's like you live in a big neighborhood and all of a sudden you come home and there's a wall like right down the middle of the street in your neighborhood. You can't get to your neighbors. You can't get to your kid's school. So I was really flooded with emotion. Then it kind of surprised me a little bit that all the things that these folks went through and how resilient they had to be, they had no choice. They were behind the wall, and a lot of people knew what the West was about. But as time went on, as young folks were raised, they were subjected to, the East German propaganda and what was provided to them about how evil the people were in the West. Now, when I went into East Berlin, I went into the East Germany, I think it was the DDR History Museum, and it's still here. And I'm not going to go back to it. It was just so depressing to see what East German's version or the communist version of history was. Again, I'm not even gonna go into that on how skewed their version of history was. But regardless, if you talk about resilience, you talk about folks making do with what they had. I complain a lot. We all complain a lot about how things could be. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. I can't imagine those folks in the East when that wall went up just one afternoon and they're separated from their family. Brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, husbands and wives, co-workers could not get back to each other. And many tried to escape into the West. Some made it, but a lot didn't. I mean, can you imagine just coming back from work and then seeing this wall in the middle of the street and you're not able to get to your wife or your boyfriend or girlfriend on the other side of the wall? No cell phones, no radios. You don't even know if they're alive or not. And how much time went by and how much anguish and pain that caused those people. And it was an awfully long time before the wall came down, November of 89. And I left just prior to that, going through some photographs of, Checkpoint Charlie. And Checkpoint Charlie now is not there, although they have a little guard shack surrounded by sandbags in the middle of the street with a sign that says Checkpoint Charlie. And there's tourists just like falling over each other to stand behind these sandbags and have their photo taken. You just don't have the heart to say, that's not what Checkpoint Charlie is, and nor was it in that location. But, you do you. You get your photo by the fake Checkpoint Charlie and call it a day. But it was really, really quite a sight to see, and coming around the corner and seeing the wall just kind of accidentally near where Checkpoint Charlie was, and knowing that in this area was where I actually walked through and went into the east. So far the trip has been absolutely fantastic, and I am certainly blessed to have had the opportunity and to still have the opportunity to travel around the world. Not everybody is as lucky as I am, and that is not lost on me. I have friends that back home that have never been west of the Mississippi, and that's fine. It's that for financial reasons, or they're just not interested in going other places. No knock on them. But I would urge anyone, if you have the opportunity, break out of your comfort zone, go somewhere, go to a different state. If you're on the East Coast of the United States, go to the West Coast, go to Colorado, see the Grand Canyon. If you're on the West Coast of the United States, go to Florida, go to Texas, go to Maine, go to Boston. For folks in the EU, come to the United States. It's really not a bad place. Completely different than what you're used to. Of course, you know that by now with the advent of the internet and streaming and all those good sort of things. But if you have the opportunity, travel is very educational. I know that sounds like a cliche, but it really opens your eyes to other cultures, other cities, other people, other languages. I think I lost count at about 12 different languages as I'm walking down the street. And Berlin is obviously a huge tourist draw. Don't get me wrong. It's almost like I've almost heard more Italian and Russian and Spanish and English than I have German. The street festivals are up and running. Cafes are just overflowing, and everybody just seems to be having a good time. But I also think about what would happen if there was an SHTF situation here, another part of the world, or at home. I'm screwed if there is a severe SHTF situation in Germany, in Spain, anything to affect air travel back home, or something at home that happened that would affect any incoming aircraft. When I flew out Friday for the fifth or sixth time in the last 2 or 3 months, air traffic control, ATC at Newark Liberty Airport, or whatever the hell they call it, went down, and my flight was delayed getting into Newark, and my flight was delayed leaving Newark to come to Berlin. And that's just a technical glitch. But can you imagine just how much disruption there would be if there was a significant power loss, if the main power connections, the power cables were cut to a major airport, to a major city? If something was to happen here, regardless of where you are, if you're in Berlin, you're in Sao Paulo, you're in Moscow, can you imagine being there and a significant situation happened that would prohibit you from getting back to your family? Now, I'll go in at a different podcast. I'll go into the alternative to cellular communications that I have with family members when I'm abroad, and when they're abroad, I do have the ability of making contact with them in the event the cell tower in a certain area of a city or a country was to go south. I would still have the ability to maintain limited communications with my family, to let them know the plan, to let them know I'm okay, I'm not okay, or whatever it happens to be. All right, folks, thanks for stopping by. I know this was a bit of a departure from what I normally put up in my podcast, but I thought about it for a few days, and the more I walked around Berlin and just the flood of emotions that I saw when I saw the wall, I knew I was going to find the wall, and I knew I was going to go by where Checkpoint Charlie was, but I had no real idea on the flood of emotions that would come back 35 years later, when I was here the first time. And there's a lot of elderly folks walking around and, no idea where they grew up, no idea if they're from here or they're here on holiday, or they're really just out for a walk along the Spree River. But those folks remember what it was like 35 years ago and beyond. And then now they have the freedom to do a lot more than they did back then. All right, folks, thanks so much. And as always, be careful out there, take care of one another, and until next time.